That is, only if it is obscured. And one of them, Imam al-Subki said, and in the case when there is a testimony, somebody witnesses that he or she has seen it, but it was impossible, not improbable, I mean impossible for it to be sighted. Such as in those days, such as in those days, or in those days, we know that the moon and the sun are in a state of conjunction. So there is no hilal at all to be apparent in the sky, whether we sight it or we don't. So if someone says under that condition that we have sighted it and we know that it is impossible, we're going to say no. And that's one opinion. Under these conditions, Imam al-Subki rahimahullah ta'ala. The rest spoke of, as the text says, فَإِنْ غُمَّ عَلَيْكُمْ. If you're clouded, then you may have recourse to those computations. That in no way, and they would not do that, rahimahullah ta'ala, because it's from the scholarly point of view, it's just impossible, it's illogical, it's intolerant, that they would say, we do not look for sight in it even if we could, or when it is not clouded, and instead we compute. We shall see even later why that is so, inshaAllah ta'ala. فَقْدُرُوا لَهُ. Now, the text that connects to this فَقْدُرُوا لَهُ, and why I believe also that أُقْدُرُوا لَهُ could not mean compute. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Why? The other text I recited to you, I rehearsed to you that also the other side of the Fiqh Council, hafidhahumullah, use, and others outside of the Fiqh Council and so on, and some other students of knowledge and some other proponents of this view, depending on the state of what they know, hafidhahumullah jami'an. نحن أمة أمية لا نكتب ولا نحسب. الشعر هكذا وهكذا. We are an unlettered nation. We do not write, we do not compute. The month is like this and like this. 3 times he did that. That's either 29 days or 30 days. From this they have inferred, from this some have inferred that the reason why in those days we were asked to sight the crescent is because we were a nation that does not count and that does not compute. Right?
But today is different.
That's what they said.
Yes.
And today it's different. That has a flaw and difficulties in so many ways. As we go along, we shall continue to see some of that, at least as time would permit.
Sure.
What are some of those flaws? Now listen to me very carefully.
Sure.
The text says, that I recited to you, if you're clouded, uqduru lah. If you're clouded, uqduru lah. This is a different text, not the same text. In other words, we do not have a text that says, because we are an unlettered nation, therefore, if you cite it, begin, and if you cite it, end. We do not have a text that says that. Please listen to this very carefully. We do not have a text that says that. Because we are an unlettered nation, therefore you don't begin your fasting when you see it and end your fasting when you see it. We don't have such a causal clause. We do not have such a causal legislative clause. What we have instead, a clause that is informative, إخباري, that says نحن أمة أمية لا نكتب ولا نحسب. الشهر, the month, is like this and like this. Even in this text, it doesn't say because we are an unlettered nation, therefore the month is like this or like that.
Exactly.
Note these arguments. Now, keep that in mind, all of you, حفظكم. Now, if أقدروا means to compute, now because they have taken two texts and they have brought them, they have patched them together. One text that says نحن أمة أمية لا نكتب ولا نحسب الشهر هكذا وهكذا, and this different text that says صوموا لرؤيته وأفطروا لرؤيته فإن غم عليكم فاقدروا له. Now that's one fault, is we have brought two texts, patched them together, and argued that the first statement, we are an unlettered nation, is a cause, an operative cause, illa, for having to begin the month of Ramadan at the sighting of the crescent. So that's flaw number one. There are two different texts. Flaw number two, there is no statement of causality. It did not say because we are. It did not in any of those texts. And the ulama of usul al-fiqh know this as even if we infer a cause from that, this is a non-sarih, dhanni way to draw that conclusion. This is non-obvious, indirect, and speculative, or the most probabilistic way of drawing that conclusion. Now keep that in mind.
Sure.
Thirdly or fourthly, أقدروا له, if it meant to compute. Now let's bring the text together as they did, and we will see that it has problems. This understanding has a logical problem and of course a shari'i problem. Why is that? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would be then saying, he didn't say that if we patch these texts together as was done by our brothers, hafidhahumullah, and which they have not, I think, paid attention to, all of those who argued this way, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would be saying 14 centuries ago, if we take, the proper analysis, we are a nation that we do not know how to write and we do not compute. And therefore, if you are clouded, compute. Do you see what it says? Do you see the tanaqud? And that's a contradiction. ويتنزه الشرع عن ذلك ويتنزه كلام الشارع عن ذلك. And the words and the logic and the choice of words of the lawgiver is exalted from such inconsistencies. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would not make that inconsistency. We force an inconsistency on the base of what we understood. If we understand uqduru as compute, then we have generated an inconsistency. Because then the text would be saying,
yes,
we are an unlettered nation, we do not count and we do not compute. And if you're clouded, compute. But we do not know how to compute. And that's improper, that's wrong, that's inconsistent, it's very obvious. Therefore, the lawgiver subhanahu wa ta'ala through Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not intend either that uqduru means to compute, or that, or both, that the reason why we do not cite is illiteracy, that we do not know how to compute. That's the logical conclusion. Either or both. Because if we don't accept this, then there is inconsistency with the text, and we are saying that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was inconsistent. حاشاه صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم.